Canada's economy has also been affected by trade uncertainty. Prime Minister Trudeau's Liberal government navigating the new NAFTA, the China-U.S. trade story, not to mention SNC-Lavalin. For a look back at some of the top stories of this year and a look ahead to 2020, we're joined now by Ian Lees, Associate Professor at Carleton University's Sprott School of Business. Ian, just starting with that trade story, what really stands out to you from 2019?
I think we have to distinguish between Canada, of course, and let's call it the rest of the world international. There's three, I think the three top stories or issues in Canada Lavalin was number one because of the very large consequential impact of the whole scandal, if I can call it that. The idea that there really is a rule of law and that wealthy people cannot buy their way out of the rule of law, even if you can bring in the PMO and former Superior Court judges from the Supreme Court and so forth. So that's why that was important. The second, of course, was the yet unresolved climate change carbon tax debate, because we're realizing how messy and complex it is and how it falls disproportionately on parts of the country. And of course, I'm referring to Alberta and Saskatchewan. And then the third issue I would put at the top of the list as the three most consequential issues was, of course, NAFTA. We finally got a deal, and it was very important for Canada. So those are the three on the call it the domestic side, I think, that are really shaped our country in 2019.
And as we look ahead to the new year, what are you going to be watching? For example, a lot of people keeping an eye on what's going to happen with that U.S. election.
Absolutely. I mean, the President of the United States is the president of the world's superpower, the most powerful economy in the world. Over $20 trillion. It's the reserve currency. And so everybody in the entire world is affected by the election of the president, and especially so Canada, because we are so tightly integrated into the U.S. economy. And so that's why I would put that issue as the impeachment / and re-election is one of the top three stories of 19 and going into 2020. It's the very quick thing I want to make, the point I want to make is setting aside the fact that he is so polarizing and he said so many offensive things about women and minorities and sexual identity and so forth. But if you set that aside, and I'm not trying to at all exonerate or legitimize it, and just look at the economic issues, he has, deregulated like crazy. He's cut taxes, and the growth rate, the growth record has been just astonishing. I mean, 10 years without a recession is unprecedented. And so the question is, to now answer your question, can it continue throughout 2020? Because the record of presidents being reelected in a recession is very poor. So if the growth continues in 2020, I think it's fair to say that he will probably be reelected. But if the growth collapses and they enter into a recession, I think it would be very doubtful that he would be reelected.
Interesting questions, especially because the competitive landscape of Canada versus the U.S. has been so much in focus. Ian, thanks. As always, great to get your perspective, and happy holidays to you. Ian Lee, Associate Professor at Carleton University's Sprott School of Business, with a look back at 2019 and a look ahead to 2020.